In today's episode of the Motorhome Map podcast,
we take a look at what's happening for consumers in the American market and see if it helps us predict trends for here in the UK.
In the news, the February NEC Show is just around the corner.
And we answer your questions on carrying a motorbike, how to check your gas level, and whether it's better to buy at a show.
Welcome to the Motorhome Matt podcast. I'm Keith Gooden.
And I'm Motorhome Matt.
Industry insights and expert advice for the world of motorhomes, caravans and campervans, brought to you by thatleisureshop.com and sponsored by Ripe.
Now remember, please follow on your favourite podcast app and make sure you click subscribe and the bell if you're watching on YouTube.
Has it come round so quick already? It just seemed like yesterday it was October and now it's February.
That's your age.
The Caravan, Camping and Motorhome Show at the NEC, 17th to the 22nd of this month.
Yes, can't wait. That Leisure Shop, the whole team are there and I'll be there with them. We're in Hall 5 on the Crespo Beaucamp stand and I'll be on the stand every morning to say hi to you and answer your questions. So do pop along and say hello. We're in Hall 5, stand 5120.
So, Matt, we're headed across the pond once again.
We are, yeah. I'm always looking at the markets worldwide, and I'm really following China quite closely at the moment. That's an interesting one. But this week we head across to the USA, and I want to see what things are changing over there. In fact, if they're changing at all. And I was intrigued as to what has changed for American citizens and how they use what they call RVs. So
well, we call motorhomes.
We call motorhomes, yeah. But their market's changing a lot. So the product's changing. They have these things called fifth wheels. They have big caravans. And they're getting into smaller types of motorhome as well. And I was just really interested to know, how are they using the product? Is it any different to here? So they have a pastime called boondocking, which we call, incorrectly, wild camping. And it's a huge pastime over there, boondocking. So going and parking up in beautiful places. And, of course, their area is massive. The roads are huge.
Boondocking?
Well, the RVs themselves. Some of the boon areas are huge, yeah, places you can boondock. What are you saying now? Did you see that?
No. Anyway, you're boondocking, yeah.
So I caught up with dear friend of the podcast, Liz, from the YouTube channel, Liz Amazing, and she is a consumer champion for US RVers. Liz, welcome back onto the Motorhome Map podcast. It's great to see you again. The big thing I need to know is the toilet fixed?
No, do you want me to change? So it's like I've come back a week later in a new top.
No,
he is still there.
We were talking. He's still going. So in our last chat, we were talking about the pressures that the American consumer faces on build quality. And I wanted, though, to pick your brain on how American consumers use RVs and motorhomes. You have so many different types of RV, travel trailer. You describe a destination trailer. You're in an RV at the moment, aren't you?
Yes.
With a sliding patio door.
Yes.
Which is really interesting.
Right there.
Yeah. So here in the UK, we've had this huge boom in what we call Vanlife. Do you have the term Vanlife in the US?
Yes, we do. Yeah, there has been so many changes. So I've been RVing since the 80s, the late 80s. And it used to be anyone, going for a long period were retired. And if you were just going for a weekend, it's a family, you bring the kids, you roast the marshmallows, toast the marshmallows kind of thing. And since COVID, it's become a thing to come out here and be a digital nomad. So if you're in your working years, decades before retirement, there's so many tech jobs now that you can do from your van or your fifth wheel or your motorhome. So that's the biggest shift. And I was out here full-time RVing through COVID. In fact, I started in 2018 and did it for 5.5 years. Now I'm half-time. And I've sought teachers and project managers, fundraisers, all kinds of people working out of their RV. And that has changed it up so much. I love that it's younger and that people are raising their kids while traveling. I would love to be 6 again and, exploring RV life, and what a great education. So I think it's opened up more. I think in the last, I'd say 6 years, it's opened up more.
And so you're seeing more and more people then taking to RV life or van life full time. So giving up bricks and mortar and
Yes.
moving into an RV full time. Is that because housing prices are driving that? Is house prices getting out of hand? I mean, they are here in the UK.
That's a big part of it. I think a lot of it is our influencers that are talking about RV life are just pulling people in. We're living the dream, we're working, but look, we're right here on the lake or we're right here on the beach. And that's pulled a lot of people in. I think, the digital nomads, the fact that you can work and
Mm.
travel, that's a relatively new thing that you could be teaching kids and be on the road, or you could be designing software. The fact that you don't have to show up in an office to get a paycheck has really upended things for just the whole industry. And
Yeah.
so the people are out there younger. And then I also meet people that are making a living while traveling that is not digital. Like I've met people that cut hair. I've just met a drone pilot who travels and charges for flying his drone over campgrounds and makes a living that way. So there's
Mm.
other creative ways to do it, but that's what's brought in the people that aren't retired that are still working and raising kids. Is there's just been a big surge, but also now the van life, it can be full time, but a lot of people are doing it for skiing. I met a couple that they can't afford to buy a condo in a ski resort, but they can afford to get a van and park it and ski. And there were quite a few people that do things like that where it's cheaper to buy the van and go places than paying for a hotel.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, here we have this big trend, a term we use, wild camping. Now, I think you call it boondocking,
Hmm.
where you're off grid, you're not connected to any mains electricity, and you want to park in an area of outstanding natural beauty. So, yeah, you mentioned park next to a lake. Um, but we're finding that our motorhome pastime is under massive pressure from the authorities that govern those areas, the county councils, with height barriers going in, restrictive parking overnight. Are you suffering the same pressure for that trend?
Well, the cities, are you talking about like people that are pushed out? I'm not quite sure what you're asking.
So, are you finding that your desire to park in a car park or next to a lake is being quashed by the landowner? We've had lots of legal battles here in the UK between the landowner and people that want to park up and admire the view. So we have lots of motorhomes that want to park on coastal roads, looking at the ocean, but the people who spent £1 million on those houses, looking at the same view, don't want those white plastic boxes blocking the view, and so
Exactly.
parking restrictions are put in place.
Yes, there definitely is that. It is a little different culture here. You just don't park on someone's land here. You don't walk on someone's land here. You just don't. It's just not done. So you can only really go to designated places. The biggest shift has been more that people are forced out of affordable housing into RVs. So any big city, Los Angeles, Portland, is going to have an RV community that does not look like my campground or your campground. I mean, they're in very, beat up RVs, but doing RV life often stationary, just trying to survive. But the boondocking craze has really come about because these campgrounds have gotten very expensive, and a lot of them are just like a big parking lot. And people don't necessarily want to see their neighbors or hear their neighbors. They want to be away from it all. I mean, that's very alluring for a lot of people. Let's go somewhere where we look out and we don't see anyone. We just see this lake and this beautiful view. And that's where vans really excel because they're so much more accessible, particularly if you have four-wheel drive. You're not going to be able to get a whacking big fifth wheel in a lot of these boondocking places or a motorhome, but a van will get you there.
And are you seeing a big boom in four-wheel drive looking or four-wheel drive capable motorhomes? And we are here. It's a huge
Yes.
trend for big knobbly tires, raised suspension, and they're not actually four-wheel drive. They just look the part. And I think
Yeah.
personally, I think it's a fad. Is that something you're seeing there?
Yes, definitely a high clearance vehicle, four-wheel drive. And it's actually needed for our national parks. Many of our national parks have bumpy roads. Now, not the main roads, but if you want to go and see something really special, you've got to go 5 miles down this bumpy gravel road with washboards and potholes and that sort of thing. So a high clearance vehicle is recommended. If you want to see a lot of America's natural beauty, particularly the American West, a four-wheel drive will get you there. They'll get you up the high elevation mountains and of course be
Yeah.
helpful if you do run into, inclement weather, snow, ice, mud, that kind of thing.
So you genuinely have four-wheel drive vehicles. I mean, I laugh at them because ours often look four-wheel drive, but they're not. They're just front-wheel drive. And as soon as they hit some wet grass, they're stuck. They're as useless as everything else. And I think it's just a trend. But it's interesting that you say they are genuinely four-wheel drive. Do you have a penchant for lithium as well? That seems to be another topic here where it's almost we call it keeping up with the Joneses. It's I must have lithium batteries.
Well, lithium depends where you are. Lithium is attractive in many ways. For one, they don't weigh as much. However, you cannot let lithium batteries freeze, go below freezing. So if you are someone who is camping in very cold weather, say you're up in Canada or the northern part of the US, lithium is not recommended because you'll kill that battery. You've got to keep the battery warm. But if you
Yes.
are staying in the southern parts, then it can be cost effective to get lithium and you get a little more out of your batteries. So it's just doing your
Yeah.
research and knowing where you're going because you're spending a lot of money for batteries either way.
Yeah. It seems you have extreme conditions. In all areas, the terrain and the weather, which of course we don't
Hmm.
really have here in the UK.
Hmm.
Can I just ask you about pricing, Liz? So
Hmm.
you'll have a view of the industry as you spend so much time looking at new RVs. Prices here have gone astronomical. If it was £50,000 in 2018, that same motorhome is probably doubled. It's probably now brand new, £100,000. And you extrapolate that up to American price points. As you say, you're talking $1 or $2 million for an RV that probably cost less than half of that 7 years ago.
Hmm.
Is that still going on? What are prices doing in America right now with new product?
Well, we've had a little bit of a shift in the industry towards the end of 2025. There's been some layoffs, there's been some market stagnation. So there's been, some turmoil in the US, so people haven't been as quick to buy. So I'm going to probably expect the prices to stabilize or even go down a little bit in 2026 just to
Yeah.
capture these hesitant buyers. Because when you're worried about your future, you're not going to run out and buy an RV. And I think they're going to have to, respond accordingly in when they set the prices for sure.
Yeah, and in the used market, you no doubt have an inkling of what's going on there. We're finding that motorhomes here that are 3 years old, so bought in the end of the pandemic at a really high price. Now the depreciation curve is back, and they really are not worth the price that's in the screen, and they're under real price pressure. I guess that's the same there.
Yes, but you're going to get so much more bang for your buck if you buy used. You're going to
Hmm.
get most likely better quality if you buy 2018 or older. That's before the industry went through industry-wide cheapening. That's before they went from screws and nails to staples and glue. Also, if you buy from a private seller you're going to be better off because they likely will have the repair records. You get to meet them. You get a sense of whether they've taken care of the RV or if they've, driven it to death. So you're better off. You're going to get so much more for your money. And in talking like even like motorhomes, if you get something on a bus chassis like a Liberty, a Prevost, for travel, you can get a wonderful solid bus that'll last forever for $150,000. So that's not a lot for a diesel powered motorhome that may be 15, 20 years old. Those things are solid. Or you buy a brand new one that's 3 million, but might have problems. And who can afford 3 million? I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah. And you say that there's a trend for younger people getting into RVing. They
Absolutely.
don't have that $3 million.
No.
So is
no.
there a huge growth in that real kind of affordable end of the market?
Yes, I mean, people that just, are watching and seeing these influencers out there, in the beautiful desert and saying, here we are, they feel that pull. And it's such a shame because the lower end, the cheap, really cheap brand new ones are just so scary because
Yeah.
they're just truly slapped together. There is not any quality control at the factory. So it really pays you to do your research, to take your time. I would buy a solid used RV way better than buying a brand new one. I would not touch a brand new one. Certainly if it's made by the big three, I wouldn't touch a brand new one.
Well, there you are. Well, you would know.
Yeah.
And yours is used, and you are suffering some challenges with your toilet still. The man seems to have left. So,
well,
hopefully...
it's just regular maintenance. I got a new toilet and like a month ago, and there's always something with RV life. I got a new toilet a month ago, and there was some connection that needed to be replaced that we didn't know, and now we know. Got to replace the connection.
As you say, there is always something, and you're not even driving yours down the road to rattle it loose. So
that's the other thing. If you are shopping for an RV, you want to have some money set aside. If you have X amount of money, don't spend all of X on the RV. You want some money set aside, whether you're buying new or used, because things happen. You want to do some repairs. You want to do some upgrades. You might want to add things. So definitely keep some money set aside for that.
Yeah, very good advice. Thank you, Liz. So, Liz, where can people find you online? You're predominantly on YouTube, aren't you?
Yes, I'm Liz Amazing on YouTube. Just go, youtube.com/Liz Amazing, or just put in Liz Amazing in the search bar and you'll find me.
Brilliant. Liz, thank you so much for joining us. And if we can keep in touch, I'd love to do that. And it's really important, I think, for us here in the UK, on our little island, to keep abreast of what's happening in the US, because as I've joked before, what happens there happens here 5 years later. So in some ways, I hope it doesn't.
I know. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure meeting you, Matt, and I hope we keep in touch.
Yeah, let's do that. Thank you, Liz.
That's Liz from the Liz Amazing YouTube channel, and what American RVers, recreational vehicle workers, are doing in the United States of America and how it compares to what we're up to over here.
And it actually would seem to be not a lot different. More and more people choosing to live full-time in an RV. People use them in very similar ways to us. So it was great to get her insight. A lot of trends happening in the USA that I really hope don't come here. We had an episode with Liz recently. It was kind of the first half of that conversation. You can check it out. It was a few weeks ago, where Liz was really unpacking some of the challenges around manufacturing of the product and some of the terrible service that consumers there receive, and this litigation culture, which I really don't want to come
But
here.
it's unusual for the USA, isn't it? Because customer care, you usually get more of it than you actually want all the time because they want tips.
It's odd, isn't it? Yeah. So the US is renowned for great customer service. But in this market, it just seems to be a challenge. So, yeah, things are on a parallel, and I think there's a lot we can learn by looking at these other marketplaces. Hence, I love to do it. So thank you, Liz, for letting me borrow you for a little bit longer, so we could talk about some of the trends that consumers are pursuing with their RV.
And if you want to hear more from Liz Amazing, then we did an episode with her on the 12th of January. It's the Motorhome Matt podcast. I'm Keith Gooden.
And I'm Motorhome Matt.
It's brought to you with thatleisureshop.com and sponsored by Ripe.
Remember, you can get 15% off your insurance premium with Ripe. Just click the link in the episode description and the discount will be applied automatically.
It's the Q&A, the questions and answers, where you ask the questions and Motorhome Matt, ding, it's him. He answers them, ding. And if he doesn't know, he'll ask somebody who jolly well does know the answer. So you'll get an answer. First of all, Dave is in Nottingham.
Motorbike Matt and Sidecar Keith. It's Dave from Nottingham. Just watched your podcast on motorhome industry in crisis, and there was a Q&A regarding putting a motorbike on the back of the motorhome. And you suggested putting it sideways across the back. I have found a company in Loughborough that manufacture Easy Lifter, which is a hydraulic version of lifting your motorbike on the back of the motorhome. But I can't find a motorhome that will accept the extra 220 kilos. Could you please look into this? Thanks.
Cheers, that is Pillion Dave in Nottingham.
Sidecar Keith.
Sidecar Keith.
Very good.
Sidekick Keith, yeah.
We had family here from America once, and I rang them and said, "Where are you?" And they said, "Oh, we're in Lugabrugga, Loughborough."
Ah, right. I used to work in Worcester. They used to come over. Worcester.
See, it's a language podcast again.
Yeah. It's a big running gag, actually, in the United States, where they use a lot of Worcester sauce, especially down south for the spicy foods. And they can't say Worcester. They do say Worcester. But it's a running gag in comedy on TV.
They say tomato sauce.
Yeah, you say tomato. Yeah, absolutely. So basically, Dave wants you to conjure up extra payload from a motorhome if you can.
I don't need to. So there is an answer for you, Dave. So yeah, putting the bike transverse across the back is a good idea because you're not carrying a trailer. Much easier to drive the motorhome when the bike is part of the kind of length of the van. But he's right. He's obviously got a big motorbike. I bet it's a GS 1150 or something like that. And they are heavy. And that is a problem because most motorhomes at the back in the garage only carry 200 kilos. And of course, the further back you go, the heavier things become. And what's the word for that? I can't remember what the word's called.
Leverage?
It could be leverage, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, the further away you go, you need to be more mindful of the weight. But I've got some good news. An Easy Lifter is great for lifting the bike up.
By the way, is that the international sign for leverage?
It probably is. Or that.
Hello, madam.
Hello. Or this, with the railway thing, where they move the railway tracks.
Change the points.
Signal box, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. Anyway, an Easy Lift is a great way of, you ride the bike onto the ramp, onto the thing at the back, and then you pump it, it's hydraulic, and raise it up.
Pumping,
so then, and the lift connects to the back of the chassis. It connects to the back of the chassis of the motorhome.
Yeah.
Right, brilliant idea. Until your bike's really heavy. But there is something called a Hydra Trail from Easy Lifter, and it's supported by 2 jockey wheels. So you pump the bike up and then you put the 2 wheels on and they take all the weight. So you're now driving along and you've got this fixed kind of extra axle which does drag around a bit. And I have to say, when you go backwards, often they go clunk and the bike moves. They look awful when you do it. But they take the weight of the ramp with the bike on. So the motorhome is not carrying all the weight. It's called a Hydra Trail. And there is a video on YouTube with some terrible music, but it's a good demo on how you fit one. This being demoed onto the back of a small transit van. Armitage Trailers also make one, and that will carry 225 kilos. So this piece that you put on the back does have a gross weight limit, so you need to be mindful of that. And they're on eBay for less than $2,000, so they're not terribly expensive. But yeah, Hydra Trail, that's what I would look for.
And the jockey wheels actually run on the road when you're driving?
They run on the road when you're driving. They take the weight of the bike, yeah.
Check the speed rating of the tyres on them.
Very, very sensible, Keith. Well done.
Thank you. because people don't on trailers.
No, it's true.
They don't. And
I saw a camping
blowout.
trailer the other day in lane 3 of the motorway, the outside lane.
Which he shouldn't have been in.
Which he shouldn't have been in, and he was doing at least 85 mile an hour. And this tiny little, it was an Erda trailer, the tiny little metal one.
But it was bouncing up.
It was hilarious. It was barely on the motorway. And I said to Mrs. Motorhome, I said, the speed rates in those tyres don't matter. They're barely touching the tarmac. Honestly, this thing was in the air.
Thanks, Dave. Lee's in Northamptonshire. Hi, Matt. Can you advise the best gadget to check the gas level without removing the bottle from the cupboard, please?
Yes, I can. You ready for this? Coming up from under the table. This is a product that I was very, very cynical about. It is a Truma gas level check. It works by ultrasonic. That's the word I'm looking for. And you pop it on the side of your gas bottle. It has to be metal, so it won't work on a plastic bottle. And it detects where the level is. So if you're in the gas, it doesn't show anything. If you're above the gas in the air, or whatever that gap is above the gas, it doesn't show anything.
It'll be a vacuum because the gas has come out.
It will be a vacuum. And when you get to the gas itself, it goes green. It's red the rest of the time. It's really clever. I don't have a gas bottle here to demonstrate it. Anyway, someone said, they're really good. I said, no, they're not. So I took one out and we tested it on about 10 gas bottles. It's brilliant. They work really, really well. They're around 60-odd quid. We sell them at thatleisureshop.com. Just search for Truma gas level check. Remember, as a Motorhome Matt podcast listener, you get 10% off your first purchase. Just use the code MotorhomeMatt, and you will be very welcome to get 10% off your purchase. A Truma gas level check. They're very, very good. The other product I would suggest, I don't have one here to show you, is a gas stop safety valve, and that has a gauge on it that shows you when you're getting near to empty. It also is a safety device that if you have a gas leak, the valve shuts off immediately. A genius product that should be fitted to every motorhome, and they're around 40-odd quid.
Fantastic. And what was it, last week or the week before? We had on the Q&A, somebody wanted an app for when they refilled their water tank. Yeah. And we took the mickey, but could you not use something like one of them, repurposed maybe?
I think if you drop this in the water, you'd probably break it. It's got a battery in it.
There you go. There you go. Still waiting for that app, by the way. Julie Manning is in Hereford. Hi, Matt. Love your podcasts. Have learned so much in preparation for buying a camper van. Just wondering if the NEC show gives better discounts than local dealers. And if so, how comes this happens? For example, are Adria there, and can you order or buy directly from them? Or would you need to buy or order through a dealer there instead? Or would you buy through Adria and they deliver to your local dealer? And if you can buy directly from Adria, how do you then follow up any warranty issues? So can you buy direct? Do you have to go through a dealer? Will the dealer sell it to you at the show, or will the dealer?
My head's spinning now. Right, okay. The first thing I would do, Julie, thank you for the question, is a really good question, because going to a show can be very daunting, and it needn't be at all. And I'd highly recommend you go to a show. So the NEC Motorhome Show, which is on in a minute, we've just plugged it as we record this, is all new, brand new motorhomes, campervans and caravans. The Warner shows are a mix of new and used, and I recommend whatever you're looking for, you go to as many shows as you can, because it's a great way of seeing loads of product in one place and you haven't got to trawl around lots of dealerships. The first thing is you can't buy from a manufacturer directly unless they are a smaller manufacturer. So for example, a brand like Consort, you can buy directly from them, but they are much smaller than you mentioned Adria. I would also go and check out a podcast episode that we released. It was back in 2023. It was 23. If you Google Motorhome Matt, buying a motorhome at a show, you will find it. In fact, if you Google most questions to a motorhomes, you put Motorhome Matt in, you'll probably find something we've talked about. You're always going to be at a show, generally, as I say, buying from a dealer. So you need to ask them where they're based, or ask on the counter or the main desk, is there a dealer near you? So give them the area of the country you're in. Some of the bigger stands have big maps with all their dealers on, and ask to speak to someone from the dealer near you. This is really important because, and we've covered this a lot in the past, but if you live in Cornwall and you could end up buying from someone in Scotland and you have a warranty issue, if you are relying on the manufacturer warranty, you are probably taking it back to Scotland to have warranty issues sorted, because the dealer near you in Exeter probably doesn't want to sort your warranty issues out. They're going to let you and insist you go back to the supply and dealer.
But Julie does make a good point, because when you're at these big shows, you do have the manufacturers who are displaying their wares, their motorhomes, caravans and campervans, and they are taking orders. So she's asking is, okay, if I order through them, do they just give that to me through my local dealer?
So the deal offered by the manufacturer is offered by the dealer to you, and the manufacturer might be underwriting it. So if it's a free awning, for example, then the manufacturer will gift the dealer the free awning.
But you're an Adria or whatever, or a Heimer, and you say I'd like that, and they sign you up. And you sign the contract. Do they then hand you on to your local dealer?
No, you deal with the dealer from the start. It's very rare that a manufacturer will sit down with you and do a deal, because they're supplying the dealer who will do the deal with you.
Right.
Now, a friend of mine went to a show and managed to save £8,000 by talking to 2 dealers on the same stand. He had to travel 200 miles to get that £8,000 saving, but that dealer 200 miles away was more motivated to sell that piece of stock than the one close to him. So he knew that he had to then potentially go back to them, the supply and dealer 200 miles away, in order to get any warranty work done. But cleverly, what he did is he was buying an aftermarket warranty from Warranty Solutions Group, and the dealer near him, they will supply at £200 an hour working rate. If there's a problem, the dealer near him is now happy to work on it. So he hasn't got to travel that £200, and that cost him a few £100 for the year.
So, Julia, we hope we've unravelled a bit of that for you.
There's a lot in there.
But the thing is at the show, don't ever feel pressured to buy there and then. It's a show. Use it to go and have a look, have a look around, sit on the seats, lie on the beds, do whatever you can. So, you're building up this great knowledge bank. So when you come to buy, you're fully informed.
That's right, and check out the other episodes of this podcast as well. There's so much rich content in the Q&A and in the topics that we've talked about, and buying at a show we've covered many times. So, do go and check that out.
How do people get in touch then, Matt?
Thank you. Yeah, we'd love it if you did. Head to mhmp.info/Ask Matt. Fill in the form and we'll read it for you, or we'd love it if you recorded it. We love hearing your voices on the podcast. Click the orange button. Remember, tell us where you are and we'll include you in a future episode.
And if you're looking for trusted brands and services, then make sure you visit the Motorhome Matt approved directory. It's at mhmp.info/approved.
And if you're listening, remember to follow on your favourite podcast app, or if you're watching, click subscribe and the little bell on YouTube.
And is it fair to share?
If you know someone that would find this content useful, entertaining, or would help them make a buying decision, would you share it with a friend? We'd love it if you did. Just send them a link to the podcast and help us grow the audience. Thank you.